Okay, go ahead and make yourself a brand new document of any size in Illustrator because we're going to learn all about type in Illustrator. So this video will be a little longer. We'll go through a lot of things. So this is the type tool right here. If you hit T on your keyboard, it'll jump you in. Now, if I fly out the menu, you see there's all these other versions. We are going to stay away from all these versions in this class. We are simply using the regular type tool. We're not doing anything crazy with type in this class right now. We are mostly learning basics. We're going to learn to walk before we fly. So with this type tool, we're only concerned with two different things that this type tool can do. Although with key modifiers, it can, or placing it on things, it can do other things. Ignore those. So the first one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click. And I just real quick clicked and released. I didn't do any kind of dragging or anything. And so what this did was it gave me a line of type called point text. And it's called point text because it emanates from one single point. So if I decide to just go keep typing, it will just go ad infinitum to the left, right? So we obviously don't want that. Now here's one thing. If you're inside text and the cursor's there, how do you get out? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. You can go ahead and switch to any tool in the tool palette, or you can hit the escape button. Okay, so those are the important things there. Now the other type tool we can do is called area text. So this one I will click and hold, and I drag out, and notice this box I'm dragging out. And this box will go ahead and start with all this lorem ipsum text to fill the box that you made. So now your question becomes, well, then what's the difference between point and area text? Area text, notice we have overflow. So let's exemplify that by changing the size, using the black arrow. So now the first thing you need to know when using the black arrow in text, especially point text, is that you should always hold shift. You do not want to do this and stretch your type. That is a type crime. That is a no-no. If you have stretched or squished text, I will call you on it. You want to hold down that shift button and go ahead and make your text more bigger to do that. Now, with the area text, what happens is you can reflow your text. And so notice that the text just changes how it flows in the box. Now, if you see this little red thing here, doodad there, that means that you have extra text outside that box. And you notice what I did is I clicked on that and it added a new box, but we don't care about that. We don't need that right now. Not a big deal for us to know that. So I want you to stop the video and just make sure that you can make point text and area text. All right, well, welcome back. So now we're going to move on to managing our text, changing the typefaces, adding more typefaces, etc., etc., etc. So we're going to need the type window. So, well, first thing, because we're in Essentials Classic mode, right? You'll see up here, I can actually manage the characters up here, but probably better is to use the type window. So if you go up to Window, Type, and go to Character or whatever, actually too, another thing you can do is hit Command T, and that brings that up. I use that all the time. I think by default, right, you'll probably see it like this without all the extra doodads, but why don't we go ahead and make sure we show options in case we need any of those things. Not that we'll really need those things there. And so here you see when I have my text selected, right, I can obviously change the text. Here I've changed this to Bebas. Now if I only want to change part of it, right, I can obviously highlight what I want to change, and now I'm going to change this instead of Bebas regular to Beba thin. So these first two things right here, right, this is our typeface and this is our type style, which can be something like italic, bold italic, thin, light, whatever your font happens to have. Now obviously here also below it, right, we can set our type size. So if I want my text to be 10 points, and you'll find out later that 10 points is perfectly good for reading. 12 points is way too big in most fonts. A next thing down the line, and we'll talk about this, is leading. So leading is the space between lines of text. So obviously it doesn't work on point text. So you could, maybe it would if you put returns in point text. But let's see here. Let's bring that up to 21. Oh, I have to have it selected. There we go, 21. Let's go to 18. And so I'll pull this out so we can see all of that. So that's our leading. Now, right next to it is what is known as, well, actually, that's the track. The kerning. Let's go to this one. Well, okay, let's stay at kerning. Kerning is individual in between different things. So let's go up to my lorem ipsum to do this. So you place your cursor between two different characters, and now you can set the kerning between those characters. So see, I could put it at -100, which really just means that they've gotten so close. You can actually type bigger than what's in those selects, right? I can go -200. Obviously, we don't probably want that to happen. You can add more space, right, to this. I hit Command Z. But before you do that, when we set type really well, what you generally want to do is let the computer do a little kerning for you. This is a little trick. So select the text that you want to have kerned, and let's go ahead and change that to optical kerning. And so what that will do is actually change it so that it tries to do a little kerning for you. It's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have to fit it out. Like, I don't like the way this I is so close to this P in this font because it's so thin. So I might put my cursor here. Now, we don't have to just use these. We can actually use some quick keys. So if you hold down the Option button, you can use your left and right arrows to add kerning in between two things. So maybe I'll just give that just a little less kerning there so that you can actually differentiate that I from that P. So that's kerning. So now what I want you to do, though, that's how to kern. That's not why to kern. And then we talked about why to kern in the reading quiz video that you watched. But what I want you to do at this point is to actually pause this video. And in the lecture page on Icon, click on the link to go to the Kerning Game, right? The Kerning Game will teach you how to look at the positive and negative space to determine that there's a balance between these individual letters, right? That's what kerning is really about. It's about balance. So go ahead, stop this video, play the Kerning Game. There's like 10 words that you kern. It's kind of fun because you can like win, right? And then come back to the video. Okay, welcome back to the video. So hopefully you did pause that. Let's look at something else, tracking. And so tracking adds space to everything. Generally, when I have paragraphs of text, I inevitably go in and type in 20. I'm not even sure what units these are in. They're probably in M's. Or no, not even in M's. I don't even know what unit they're in. I just don't think about it. But you can add more space overall to the entirety. So we can put a very loose tracking, right? And that's terrible because then we can't really follow through that. That's too much tracking. We can tighten things up. Oh, and that's even worse, right? Because I cannot even come close to reading that, right? Tracking is a matter of readability. It's also something you would put in if you wanted some air to make something feel more fancy. Generally, we will tighten larger text, but we never tighten smaller text. So that's what you do with tracking. These things are squished and everything. You don't need these. These we don't need. The only other thing inside the text here is, right, we can make something, well, that font is already all caps. I can make it all caps. I can make it small caps. Small caps is problematic. Small caps, actually, you need the font to have small caps, actually, or you get this, what you have going on right here. Notice that this L seems so much thicker than this O. When a real typographer makes small caps, this is faux small caps that Illustrator will do, they will make it so that these still appear the same weight, because this seems so much thick and these seem anemic into it. So you never actually really want to use faux small caps. You need to know if this has small caps. How do you know if it has small caps? Well, there's another window called Window Glyphs, type glyphs. And this one you can actually look for if it has small caps. So you just have to kind of look through here to see if it has small caps. You might be able to look in here. Does this say small caps? I don't even know. I just usually just look through it. And you'll see that it doesn't have small caps, whichever one I have here. So if I take, I think maybe, shouldn't it have small caps? I feel like this should have small caps. Maybe this does have small caps. Maybe I'm a liar. But to me, this looks, now that I look at this coming back, this actually looks pretty, oh, I turned it off. Duh. Okay, so again, you need something that has that. So you'll see that. What else do we have here? You probably won't use these. I mean, maybe you'll use underline once in a while. Strike through, probably barely ever. So that's really the most important things. For web graphics, there's this thing called aliasing. So you notice, I don't think we're going to see a lot of difference here. This is more of a Photoshop thing, where you're working with raster type in a raster program. So it's more worried about in Photoshop. So let's not worry about that at all. So over here, these are just basically ways to get that. Yeah, I think that's mostly what we need to know about type, other than new fonts. So what if I want a new font? Well, we have some ways to do it, and we can go to a website and download a font. If you remember, each font is its own file. But what we could do in Illustrator now, in the Adobe products, is we have the ability to use the Adobe fonts. We didn't have this like a semester or two ago. They just enabled it in the type of license we have. So you have to be on a lab computer, I believe, for this to happen. So whoa, if I go to type more from Adobe fonts, I'll let it load. Yeah, I gotcha. Right, I can find a font I like. Let's use Primo because it looks so delicious and wonderful. So I'm going to say, how do I turn it on? I guess I got to click into it, huh? And I'll say activate one font. Now when I mosey back over to this here, I go looking for my font. I'll just type. I'm actually just typed it in to get to it. And here it is. I went and I changed it. Now look at this ugliness of the way this is. You'd have to actually then, ooh, I can't even get it to kern properly. Ooh, that's ugly. That's terrible. I wonder if changing the font, the kerning thing will actually fix it. So that one was a case where you want to get rid of the auto and you want to get rid of the optical kerning and put on auto because the typeface designer actually already set the kerning. So kerning can actually be partially set within a typeface. Building a typeface is a really complex thing. So I'm glad I picked that one just to show you that happens. So that is one way to get new fonts. The last way to get new fonts, right, is to go ahead and use a website like fonts.google.com. You know, find yourself a font that you really love. Let's look at, we got Rowdy's here. And so I would say just download, they just finally added this button. You used to have to select it and go to this whole menu here. But now I can just say download the family. Go in here, open everything up. Right, and you'll see, right, there's a different font file for each version. They have a bold, light, and regular, so there's no italic on this whatsoever. Grab them all, tell the Mac to install it. PC, there's a slightly different way to install fonts, but hopefully if you're using a PC, you know how to do it. And we'll go back into here. And so now that'll be available to me. So I can just say, I'm going to look for Rowdy's. Let's use Rowdy's Light. That's still not very light for light. So you see how these names are just like dependent on the font. And so that's it. That's pretty much everything you need to know about type for our mastheads. Well, actually, real quick before we get into that, let's look at the paragraphs. So paragraphs, window, type, paragraph. Let's bring that up. Where is it? There we go. Let's go to T. Why is it not giving me the paragraph one? I just updated. Why did you do this to me? It says P. Oh, they moved it over to here. Those jerks. So it's over here somehow. It kind of contextually come out. You see that you could center the text, right align the text, that justifying the text with how you do it on the bottom. So that's that. One last thing I want to show with text is outlining the text. So right now, this text is I can just go put my cursor in and change the text. I can do something called outline the text. So I see this quick action over here. We also up here have, where is it? Type. I know it's Command-Shift-O. See, I use Command-Shift-O all the time. But if we go to create outlines, now notice if I grab it with my white arrow, you'll see that I just have access to all the, whoops, let me grab one, right? I can actually turn this just into a shape. Now the thing here is, right, I can't go edit that as text anymore. That's no longer text and it's grouped, so I have to ungroup it. And the last thing I need you to know about text, hopefully I know I've been talking really fast. I hope you stop every time I do something and just test that you know how to do it. So the last thing I want to talk about is fonts and when you hand in something. And so when you hand in something, if you install the font on your computer and you give me the Illustrator file and I open it up, I can't see the fonts. They're not embedded in your file. Remember, they're separate pieces of software. So you need to either, when you hand in something to me, create outlines, or you need to save as a PDF, because a PDF will actually embed all the characters that it needs to display. So to save a file as a PDF, it's as simple as going to File, Save As, and we're going to want to save on our computers. They've changed this whole thing. They're trying to get cloud. You know, put it where you want. And now in the format, go to Adobe PDF, say sure. And now here, we pretty much just don't want to touch anything here. We can just say save the PDF, and that's it. And now we have this saved as a PDF that if you gave it to me, I could definitely see your fonts. So that is every single thing you need to know about text to get the mastheads exercise done.